There's a moment that happens when you're driving something that you really love, not just a car, the one that you've thought about, the one that you've imagined, the one that you've worked really hard toward achieving. And then when you're in it, there's something that shifts. It's not just the mechanics and it's not just the performance, it's how you feel. There's a sense of presence, a sense of clarity, a sense that you're exactly where you're supposed to be in that moment. And that feeling, that's not just a byproduct, it's part of the mechanism. Because when it comes to intuition, emotion isn't separate from the process. Emotion is what activates it. Last week, we talked about focus. We talked about how your attention trains intuition and how what you consistently focus on becomes what your system is going to move toward. This week, we're going to take the next step because if focus tells the system what matters, emotion determines how much it really matters. Now, before we even go there, we have to anchor back to something fundamental. Intuition only works in the presence of vision because intuition's job is very simple. It bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to go. If there's no destination, then there's no gap. And if there's no gap, there's nothing for intuition to do. So whether your vision is external, a relationship, a business, financial freedom, or it's internal, I want to feel peaceful 90% of the time. I want to experience more joy. I want to become more compassionate. That still counts. That's still a very defined and specific outcome. And once that outcome is clear, now intuition has a job. And so when we talk about emotion, there are really three levers that we need to understand. The first is the most fundamental. Are you operating from a love-based state or a fear-based state? Because here's what most people don't realize. Fear-based states shut down intuition. They shut down creative thinking, critical thinking, and that intuitive mechanism. Doubt, insecurity, shame, guilt, anger, resentment are all examples of fear-based states. When you're in those states, your cognitive function doesn't just drop. It's completely inaccessible. And your intuitive mechanism goes quiet. You lose complete access, not just a little, but entirely, completely. That's why you can know what to do in one moment and then feel completely lost the very next. Nothing changed externally. Your state changed. And when your state changes, your access changes. And so if intuition is going to work consistently, you have to train yourself to move toward your vision from a love-based state. Inspiration, passion, a sense of peace, or maybe gratitude. Not occasionally, but with consistency. The second lever is more subtle, and it's where most people tend to get stuck. This is the difference between hope and faith. Hope says that would be nice. Faith says it's going to happen. Even if you don't know how yet, even if there's no evidence yet, most people, they want certainty before they move. They want the plan. They want the steps. They want a guarantee. But intuition doesn't activate that way. It activates when you bring certainty first. When you decide, when you declare, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I am certain that it will. And from that place, there is something that shifts. You enter a kind of flow state, and your intuition starts working on your behalf, solving problems, connecting dots, showing you paths you couldn't see before. Not because the answer suddenly appeared, but because your intuition is now engaged. And when you fall out of that state, because you will at times, the work is simple. You come back, you realign, you remind yourself, ask yourself questions. What have I already created? What did I do to get here? What am I capable of? What am I willing to do? And most importantly, declare, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to figure this out. That's where faith gets rebuilt. That's where it gets strengthened. Now, the third lever is where this really gets interesting because it's not just about being in a love-based state. It's about using emotion intentionally. And this is where people get confused because, yes, you want to drive from a love-based state. That's the primary fuel. That's where you essentially create from. But there's also a place for fear, not as the driver, but as a guardrail. And here's what I mean. Your nervous system is wired for survival. It's constantly scanning for threats. So instead of ignoring that, we use it. We define the threat. We ask, what do I need to avoid? What would compromise the life that I'm trying to create? And we link fear to that. Not to live in it, but to program the unconscious self so it understands what to avoid. For example, if your vision is financial freedom, you anchor love to the outcome, freedom, choices, living life on your terms. But you also define the threat, debt, scarcity, dependence. And you make that real enough internally so that your unconscious begins to move away from it automatically on your behalf. Not because you're obsessing over it, but because your brain recognizes it as something it needs to avoid. So now you have both a powerful pull toward what you want and a clear boundary away from what you don't. Now, how do you actually generate these emotional states? You use your imagination, not just to think about what you want, but so that you experience it, to see it, to feel it, to bring texture to it. Because imagination does two things. Yes, it directs attention, but more importantly, it activates emotion. When you truly imagine driving the car, living in the home, being in the relationship that you want to be in, moving through your day as the person that you're becoming, you don't just think it, you actually feel it. And that feeling is what signals to your system that this matters, this is real, move toward this. That's what fuels intuition. So now you can start to see how this works. Focus tells your system what to pay attention to. Emotion tells your system how important it is. And when those two things align, that's when intuition activates. That's when it engages. Without emotion, focus is dry. Without focus, emotion is scattered. But together, they become incredibly powerful. Next week, we're going to complete the picture because once you understand focus and emotion, the next question becomes, where are you actually investing your time? And how does investing your time build the library that your intuition is going to draw from? We're going to go there next. And for those of you who have reached out, wanting to go deeper with this, we're bringing all of it together live at the Power of Intuition Virtual Intensive. This is where we take everything we're talking about here and we actually train it step by step in real time. So it's not just something that you understand, it's something you can apply. You'll find a link to learn more below, so check it out and let's see if this makes sense for you. Also, know that the Connection Fix is available in written form on my blog and in audio form on my podcast, so you can pick up the format where you train best. Before I wrap, I want you to notice something. Think about something you say you want to create right now. A result, a change, a vision, and ask yourself honestly, what emotion have I been bringing to it most often? Not the one that you want to feel, but the one that's actually been there most consistently. Is it gratitude? Is it inspiration? Is it certainty? Or is it doubt, anxiety, or maybe fear? Because whatever emotional pattern you've been bringing to it, that's what your intuition has been responding to. If this resonated, please drop a comment and let me know. Send me an email. What are you creating right now? And what emotion have you actually been bringing to it and to the process? I read and I appreciate all of your comments and your questions. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting again next week.